American Pope blasted America's immigration crackdown, maybe we should say Trump's immigration crackdown, calling the inhumane treatment of migrants flatly not pro-life. That's a quote.
Here is the Pope, the most important institution, the Catholic Church, in opposition to abortion, but exposing another big lie, the big lie behind the American right-wing anti-abortion movement. He said you cannot judge politicians solely on abortion. You've got to look at the full range of their policy positions and their actions. He said, quote, someone who says I'm against abortion, but is in favor of the death penalty. God, Donald Trump is probably the biggest supporter of the death penalty we've ever had in the presidency. Someone who says I'm against abortion, but is in favor of the death penalty is not really pro-life. And someone who says I'm against abortion, but I'm in agreement with the inhumane treatment of immigrants in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. It's incredible. He's saying, just because of your position on abortion, that does not make you pro-life. That's another big lie. We've got to look at the whole range of your positions and your respect for life. You can't be pro-life when you're so powerfully in support of the death penalty like Donald Trump. You can't be pro-life when you back the inhumane treatment of immigrants in the United States. Immigrants are people. For the Catholic Church, they are still people with immortal souls. And simply because they are illegal immigrants, a victimless crime, by the way. Remember Trump claimed, the verdict against me in the state financial fraud case, it's bogus because there are no victims. There have to be real victims. Well, there were real victims there. But there's no automatic real victim just because you violate the immigration laws. The great majority, as we've pointed out previously, of those arrested and detained have no criminal record whatsoever, 72%, and most of the remainder only have trivial criminal convictions for things like minor traffic violations. These are people, the Pope says, if you are really pro-life, yes, you can have your policies on immigration, but you cannot treat people inhumanely like you're doing here. This is one of the great moral authorities of the world.
Right. Isn't it possible to enforce immigration law and not treat these people like dirt on your shoe? Those things are not necessarily, those things should be mutually exclusive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Did I use that word?
We have in the Constitution, Sam, a clause which says no cruel and unusual punishment.
Right.
The framers recognize that even when you're dealing with criminals, you deal with them humanely. It doesn't mean you don't punish them. Right. Doesn't mean you don't lock them away. Right. But it means you don't treat them like cattle.
Yeah.
And the Pope is very much aware of that. And as you say, you can rigorously enforce the immigration laws, but you don't have to do it with great cruelty. But there is actually motive behind the cruelty.
Right. They're trying to deter people from coming.
And to get people to self-deport.
Self-deport, right.
So they're trying to make the experience as cruel and as inhumane as they possibly can. And they've even said that. They've been right out in front and saying, yes, we want to try to convince people to self-deport and keep people from coming here.
Cruelty. What else can you say?
Yeah.
All right. So which of these topics do you want to do next? We've got the flotilla. We've got Kash Patel and the ADL. We've got...
Let's do Kash.
Okay. Kash Patel ordered the FBI to cut ties with the Anti-Defamation League, severing a decades-long relationship on hate crime monitoring.
Yes, this is just, as I said, you need a new word. It's beyond hypocrisy. The administration is using, and as we've explained many times here, falsely, illegitimately, disingenuously, the cudgel of anti-Semitism to go after institutions like Harvard or Columbia University. And as I've explained many times, Donald Trump is an exemplar of anti-Semitism, dining at Mar-a-Lago with two of the most notorious anti-Semites in America, saying there are fine people among those chanting Jews will not replace us, saying you're not a good Jew if you don't support me, and if I don't win, I'm going to blame the Jews, constantly blaming Jewish Holocaust George Soros for every ill in America. So clearly, this is all pretextual, and Kash Patel has explicitly given the lie to the administration's concern with anti-Semitism. The Anti-Defamation League is the nation's leader in the fight against anti-Semitism, publicizing anti-Semitic episodes, keeping track of anti-Semitic incidents, speaking out firmly and strongly against anti-Semitism. And here is Kash Patel now breaking a long-term relationship between the FBI and the organization that is the chief opponent of anti-Semitism in the United States.
Someone pointed out in regards to the shutdown that we talked about earlier that the ballroom is still going strong, folks. Don't you worry.
What?
Yep. The ballroom construction is continuing as planned.
Well, we don't care if people get health care, but as long as we have a golden ballroom for Trump to use in the White House, that's all that matters. I wonder if the tricking out of the $400 million jet is also going on.
I bet whoever they fire in this next round of federal employees, I bet all those savings won't even cover the ballroom itself.
No. Assuming there are any savings.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like even the amount of money that you would directly, quote unquote, save from those firings, I doubt that even covers the ballroom.
Yeah, or the combination of the ballroom and the jet, which together are close to $1 billion, and then it's not going to come close to covering the many tens of billions that they've poured into ICE.
Good point. All right, so we could do the flotilla. We could do blocking aid to...
Yeah, the Attorney General's suit, yes.
20 state attorneys general are suing Trump's administration over a new rule that blocks aid to certain sex abuse and rape survivors. No, they're pro-life, Dad.
Oh, we're pro-life.
Oh,
but,
pro-life.
As Trump says, it's not really a crime if a husband has a little fight with his wife, right? We don't really care about things like that. J.D. Vance, the great exponent of our military, has backed a video from an organization that opposes the votes for women. Perhaps the biggest organization that supports this administration is the Southern Baptist Convention, which doesn't even allow women to become pastors in any affiliated church and has a horrific scandal of sex abuse that they've swept under the rug and covered up. So now explicitly, the administration is saying we are not going to aid victims of sexual abuse unless they can instantly prove their citizenship. So you're some woman.
Citizenship?
Citizenship.
Oh, my God.
So we can't help illegals who are being beaten up or raped. So if you're a woman who's being beaten up or raped and you fled your house, by God, you better find your citizenship papers before you flee from the abuse. So you're not going to get help from the federal government.
Again, back to the Pope. Like, this is how you treat people? A poor woman, an immigrant who might have just been raped. You're like, hold on a second. We need to prove, okay, let's say she is illegal. What, you're supposed to just throw her out on the street after she's been raped? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and even U.S. citizens, they're not going to have their papers available when they're fleeing abusive relationships.
God, they really do blame everything in this country on immigrants.
Right.
Everything is in this. It's just, oh my God, it makes your stomach turn.
Yeah. It's so, they claim to be, we're America first. This could not be more contrary to the great American tradition. We are a country of immigrants. We're all immigrants, except for, indigenous people who are here before the European settlements. But they're
immigrants. Migration is part of the human experience.
Right. There's
Humans
no
have been moving across the globe for tens of thousands of years.
But leaving aside the indigenous people, all of us who are not of indigenous descent, and that's 97% of Americans, are immigrants here. And not only that, illegal immigrants. They didn't have any legal status when they killed off Indians, took their lands, broke the treaties. Come on. Thanks for watching our video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and become a member today.